Okay, welcome. Another Core Connects Rhode Island. Every year we've been doing a Thanksgiving panel to focus us a little bit on the attribute or the mindset of being grateful. But before we start with our 4 women who have offered or agreed to present tonight, I'd like to just invite you to come to other programs that Core Connects Rhode Island is offering. We have a book group coming up. Check the website. And then the Great Rhode Island Challah Bake is a mustn't miss event, which will be this year in January. So please sign up for that if you haven't already. And looking to do more and more and connect more and more and do that. So without further ado, I will introduce, Melissa asked to go first, but she's not here. So if you don't mind, I'm going to ask Ruchama to go first. Would that be all right, Ruchama? Are you all right with that? Okay, so Ruchama was born in Toronto, and she's lived in Providence for 36 years, since 1986. She started at Blue Cross of Rhode Island a year later as a temp on a 3-month assignment, still there 35 years later in the information technology department. Her husband is a retired therapist who studies and teaches Torah, and she has children who are married and live in New York, New Jersey, Maryland, and she has many grandchildren, and she is my dear friend, and I'm very happy to offer Ruchama the stage to share a little bit about your way of thinking about the gratitude, what you'd like to share with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And I guess when Alyssa asked us about speaking tonight, she said the topic was what I am grateful for. And she also said that we should each speak between 5 and 10 minutes. So that's my first challenge, because 10 minutes is nowhere near enough for me to tell you all the things that I'm grateful for. So, but I got the stage first, so we'll see. So the first thing I'm grateful for is to have a dear friend called Alyssa Felder. She is an amazing person, as you all know, and we are so proud of all the wonderful work she does and the Torah that she shares every week, and how she makes everyone, her mission is to make everyone feel good and add value to their lives every day. So thank you, Alyssa. And I know that you've had this program in previous years for, around Thanksgiving. It makes very good sense to have a discussion about gratitude around Thanksgiving. It's always good to verbalize the things that you are grateful for. It's a good exercise. So I just want to say that I think many cultures have a day of Thanksgiving. I know I grew up in Canada, in Toronto, so I know Canadian Thanksgiving was about a month, I think it was second Monday of October. And it's also basically a harvest festival. That's the original basis for the Thanksgiving. And in Judaism, we too have a festival, a harvest festival. About a month ago, we celebrated Sukkot. And although it's not the only message of Sukkot, of the Sukkot holiday, but the Torah does call Sukkot Chag HaAsif, which is the holiday of gathering of the harvest. So we too have a Thanksgiving Day every year. And I guess what I wanted to say, beyond that, is that in Judaism, we practice gratitude and thankfulness all the time. It's part of our national personality, I guess, if that's the right term. But for example, if you ever asked your Bubby or Zadie, how are you? I think you probably many times heard, thanks God, right? Thank God. Or Baruch Hashem, bless God. That seems to be a very typical answer when you ask a Jew, how are you? Thank God. So it's part of our national heritage, I guess. And it's training that begins from childhood, from a very early age. We teach our children that when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you'll say when you open your eyes is Modeh Ani. That's the word Todah is thank you in Hebrew. Modeh Ani, I thank you. And you say I thank you, God, for returning my soul to me with compassion. And when we eat a meal, any bread meal, so after the bread meal, we say the grace. After meals, the second paragraph of grace after meals starts with the same word, Nodeh, Todah, Nodeh Lecha. We thank you, God. And in our daily prayers, that word keeps recurring. 3 times a day we pray, we say, Modim anachnu lach, we thank you, God. And that paragraph in the prayer is one of my favorites. We thank you, God, al chayenu hamsurim biyadecha, for our lives that you hold, and al nishmotenu hapkudot lach, for our souls. We thank you for our souls that are entrusted to you. And my very, very favorite part is ba'al nisecha, on your miracles. We thank you for all the miracles, shebchol yom imanu, that are with us every single day, every moment. And I can't tell you how, there is no limit to what I'm thankful for. You just have to look outside, look at the sky, look at the grass and the trees and any part of nature, any science that you study, anatomy, biology. It fills me with wonder and all the million things that I am thankful for. So, like I said, it's a national trait, I think, to be thankful. And I recently, the miracle of life and the body, how the body works. At the age of 67, I recently had my first fracture of a tiny bone in my ankle. And it taught me this lesson. It brought it home to me. The impact that little bone not being whole has on my life. I can't drive, it's my right foot. I can't walk, I'm scooting around on a knee scooter that I borrowed from Larry Katz. So, and it's a month already, and it's probably going to be another month or two before I'm back to normal. So the miracles of what goes on in our body, our eyesight, our heart, everything. It's just mind-boggling to me. So it's not only a national education that we have about being thankful and having gratitude. I mean, how far should I go back? I can go back. I'm thankful because my parents made it out of Europe in time and weren't lost. And I'm thankful for my mother-in-law, who was saved in Europe, in Hungary, by a non-Jewish family, a courageous family who took her in and let her live with them during the war. And I'm thankful for my father-in-law, who also grew up in Hungary, not observant at all. My mother-in-law neither. And he was in a labor camp where he saw that every man was for himself. And it's understandable under those kind of circumstances. I wonder if I would be any better. But what made an impression on him was the small band of Orthodox Jews who were different. He saw that they loved each other and cared for each other and were concerned for others, each other and others in the camp. And he was blown away by that. And at the age of 40, coming out of World War II, after losing every single member of his family, he was a sole survivor. He said, Jewish religion, that's for me. And he started to learn, and he married and my mother-in-law, and they raised both my husband and my sister-in-law in, in a traditional way. So how grateful am I to those people who behaved in such a way that had such an impact for generations. Because as Melissa, as Alyssa said, Kenai and her, we have lots of grandchildren, and my sister-in-law has a whole lot of grandchildren, and they're all living lives, that are just admirable and bring merit to both my mother-in-law and father-in-law, to their memory. So what else can I tell you? What am I grateful for? My mother's strength. So not only in my national genes, I feel in my family's genes, my immediate family's genes, I saw so much caring and gratitude and selflessness. So my mother, my parents escaped Europe, as I said, in time. They were Dutch citizens. They went to Java, Indonesia, of all places, because that was a Dutch colony at the time. But my father, as a chaplain in the Dutch army, was taken as a prisoner of war by the Japanese. So the Japanese were no picnic. They were very cruel, but they were not exterminating Jews. So my parents did survive, but my mother and father were separated in separate camps for almost 4 years, and my mother had 3 little ones, and her courage and her ability to feed 3 little ones, she would risk her life at night to go out to the garbage and get scraps. And she would take eggshells. She never told me this until she once saw me rinsing off hard-boiled eggs that I had. I was peeling the eggs and rinsing. She says, "Why are you washing the eggs?" I said, "Oh, because there are little bits of shell on it." And she said, that's when she told me, she says, "Well, there was a time when I took eggshells from the trash and I crushed them with a rock and I fed them to your siblings to give them a little protein or calcium or whatever she thought she was able to provide them." So that taught me a lesson in great gratitude. It was quite amazing. My mother's mother, she had 10 children and a husband. She and my grandfather had an amazing marriage, from what I understand. She lost her husband to the Nazis and 2 of her 10 children and 1 son-in-law. And she had because she was a tough woman, and she survived and she went on. And it's hard for me to say these words, but she said in Yiddish, I don't know if anyone understands Yiddish, but it's worth hearing it in Yiddish. Ich hoff, as Gott hat nicht kein Teines auf mir, azoi wie ich habe nicht kein Teines auf ihm. She said, I hope God has no criticism of me or no misgivings about me in the same way that I have no criticism of him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
wow. Ruchama, you're really expressing your gratitude for for the people from whom you came, yeah, and how that it's informed your life, and your hakaret hatov, you're recognizing the good that they did in the world to give you the life you have. So thank you. We'll come back to some questions at the end.
No problem.
But thank you very much for sharing that. It's very, very powerful. Very powerful.
Thank you.
Well, don't go away.
I'm not going.
Eliza Krieger, I'd like to introduce you next, if you don't mind. My friend Eliza Krieger, who I knew as a student. Was that?
So it's hard to follow that.
Definitely. I remember you, Eliza, when you were a student here. I met him many years ago, that was. And you came here and you have a PhD in clinical psychology from the University of Rhode Island, and did your pre-doctoral internship at the Bedford VA Hospital in psychosocial rehabilitation. She divides her work time between her private practice and her role as a clinical psychologist / behavioral consultant for advocates and the Department of Developmental Service in Massachusetts. She enjoys helping people navigate mental health and behavioral issues in the community. Outside of work, Elisa is married to a wonderful man, has 2 wonderful daughters who are constantly enjoying challenging her perspective on behavioral management and give her a lot of joy. And she's my dear friend. And I would like to introduce Elisa to share some of your thoughts and perspectives on gratitude.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. So when every time you send me one of these prompts, it really is, it's not something I think I would do on my own, but I do really appreciate the process. I think I'm not a journaler, but it feels like I'm getting to journal with a purpose. So I always do appreciate kind of this opportunity, even though I can't say no to you. So, so thank you for that. So when I initially thought about this prompt to explore gratitude, I think, like Ruchama, I started with a list of things that I was thankful for. And that list got very long, very fast. And I probably could spend the next 10 minutes going through that list. I think it's unending. But when I actually had emailed Alyssa back to ask about the next question, when I was cued to think about where my gratitude came from, I realized that my thoughts of appreciation have really been a journey, changing and growing and intensifying over time. So I thought I would share that journey and kind of what's come from that. So to start, growing up with my parents, they really did create a space of appreciation. I don't think it's something we talked about, like we didn't have this conversation about gratitude, but I know they thanked us and they would thank people, but you could tell in the environment that everything was appreciated. We appreciated what we had, that we had food on the table. I know my mom would say, she was just grateful to have food every day, that she gave us a balanced meal every day. So it was really present in that. But I didn't really start thinking about the concept until I was at the end of my graduate training, and I was working at the VA hospital. And there, I don't know if anyone here has been to a VA hospital or worked at a VA hospital, but working at a VA hospital is an incredible experience of gratitude. Something that's kind of hard to explain, but I'm going to try. Veterans seeking help are thankful to the clinicians for helping them, listening to them, and supporting them. And on the other side, the clinicians are incredibly appreciative of the people they're helping for fighting for them, protecting their freedoms. And so each day has this intense pulsating feeling of gratitude that's mutually shared between the individuals you're helping, so the vets and the staff together. And it's hard to explain, but it's really hard, intense work, but this appreciation that you walk around with makes it incredibly meaningful and worthwhile and even joyful. But after I left the VA, I spent my next chunk of years working at a long-term care hospital in the state. And it's here where my awareness of gratitude moved from being interpersonal to being intrapersonal. At this hospital, we worked with individuals who are managing a combination of medical and mental health issues. These individuals were often diagnosed with neurological disorders like MS or Huntington's disease, while others had been in serious accidents and were living their life as a quadriplegic. So some people were dealing with both cognitive and physical decline. And so spending my days working with individuals who are losing their cognition and their physical independence or had already lost it made me really aware of my own physical abilities. The ability to get up and get out of bed in the morning, to go to the bathroom, to have privacy, to take a shower, to dress myself. These were no longer things that I was taking for granted. And every day, I would drive to the hospital and drive home, and I would see moments when I could have been in an accident on a daily basis, because I was working with people who had been in accidents or who had had some problems like that. And so it made me intensely aware of how any one of these abilities could disappear in the blink of an eye. when I was teaching when my children were young, and I was teaching them the morning blessings that we say in the morning, one prayer, Asher Yatzar, really became a big point of conversation between me and the kids, because I was used to going into work and seeing, and this prayer, actually, just to back up, is really about thanking Hashem that our bodies work in the way they're supposed to work. And I think it's something we don't really think about until we start, I think, like Ruchama said, like, until you no longer have that thing, you don't think about it. And so I would spend a lot of time talking to my kids that we should be really appreciative that we can eat the foods that we eat and go to the bathroom in just the right ways, because the people I was working with can't go to the bathroom in the right ways, and need all sorts of equipment to do that. And it gets really uncomfortable. There's a lot of pain and sickness around those issues. So kind of moving away. So after I left the VA, after I left the hospital, I started working currently, I think, as Alyssa mentioned, I've been working with individuals who have developmental disorders. Most of them have a low IQ. And though many of them can move around, go to the bathroom, and they can dress themselves, they're often most limited in their ability to make decisions for themselves. Sometimes they're limited by their cognitive ability, and sometimes they're limited by those around them who want to protect them. And what I mean by this is that what they want is not always listened to or allowed. When we start our days, right, we think about, we have to get up, we got to go to the store, we get to choose what we want to eat for lunch, we can go visit a friend. We don't really think twice about it. But these individuals, every one of them, who, when they want one of these things, the desire needs to be vetted and approved before they can go and do it. And this is just to say that not only am I appreciative of my physical abilities, but my cognitive ones as well, and my freedom and independence to guide my life with minimal interference by those around me, unless I invite them in. And with these individuals, they don't get that choice. So that's been kind of my journey around gratitude. And I want to just add in thinking about the last question, how do I show my gratitude? It reminded me that the gratitude we experience and express is as important for ourselves as it is for others to hear. When I was at the VA, I had the opportunity to learn and explore how to apply positive psychology to clinical practice. Now, normally therapy is about helping a person develop coping skills, but positive psychology has a slightly different perspective, and it looks at the strengths we have and helps to build upon those strengths to protect us when things are challenging. And gratitude, I'm sure you're not surprised to find out, is one of those traits that is a strength. And it's easy for us to be appreciative when things are going well, but it's even more important for us to find things to appreciate when things are not going well, to remind us that things can be okay. And it's here that I try to remember to be thankful, have another day to try again, to rebuild my relationship with my children, to help someone, to resolve a problem, to find purpose when things are not going well, so that I can love life even when it's not great.
Oof, wow. That was very well thought out and very well delivered, and really took us on a journey of your growth and where you are now. And it's interesting how it compared to Ruchama's. Ruchama was focusing, it seemed, on the generations before, and your journey is like you now in the world with the people around you. So it's a lovely another way to think about gratitude, and you really thought about it, and you really presented something that we'll come back to talk about at the end. Our presenter Melissa has some family crisis going on, and so is unable to come, so we might have a little bit more chat time at the end. But now I'd like to introduce my lovely friend Audrey. So Audrey, I actually met Audrey maybe 25 years ago, and Audrey, right? Audrey, yeah, I think so.
Wait.
And Audrey's parents, she worked with her parents, and I would go visit the shop the business that they were involved in. And I always had very interesting chats with her and her parents. She's lived in Rhode Island all of her life. She is a single mother by choice, a proud mama of 24. She's already 24. Wow. A 24-year-old daughter who lives in Florida after graduating from college. She owns her own business sourcing prizes for casinos, joined the board of the Sandra Borenstein Holocaust Education Center, and took her father's seat on the Yom HaShoah Memorial Day planning event. She loves historical fiction, and she likes spending time with her friends, makes her most happy. And I know you have a lot of friends. So Audrey, if you don't mind, we'd like to call on you next to please unmute yourself and share some of your thoughts.
I don't know if I can follow those two. So when you asked me about gratitude, I actually looked it up in the dictionary just to see what the official meaning is. Hi, Lisa. The quality of being thankful, readiness to show appreciation and to return kindness. Helps people feel more positive emotions and increases happiness. About a year ago, a little over a year ago, I lost my dad at 89 and a half, and he lived a really long, beautiful life, as Alyssa can attest to. And I think I'm most grateful and thankful for his guidance. I can't walk around the community without running into somebody who has a story about how he touched their lives. And that for me makes my grieving process that much easier. And I am most grateful for a smile, a joke, something silly. And everyone has a story. I'm grateful for my daughter. Raising her on my own was a challenge. Still presents challenges, but she's 24 and she lives in Florida with her boyfriend of 4 years, and she's successful and she calls me every day. So that makes it fun. There's so much, you know, when we started, we were talking about the change of seasons. I don't like being stagnant. So I'm grateful for a bit of winter, a beautiful fall. I'm grateful for the colors in the trees. You know, driving down Blackstone Boulevard, watching those trees change is magic. And those are things that, you know, those are the simple things. You know, I'm currently staying at my mother's house and I'm sleeping in a childhood bed because I'm painting my house. My mother lives 7 minutes from me. I'm grateful. I think she's more grateful because she's got somebody to talk to every day. But I mean, it's the simple things. Like, I can't get into the depth of, you know, both of your conversations. They're beautiful. But I'm just looking at it from a whole other simple perspective. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for people who take care of me. I had breast cancer 3 years ago, and my friends rallied. And that's where gratitude came in. You know, I learned a lot about myself, who was there for me. And here I am 3 years clean and moving forward like it didn't happen. So I don't know what else to say.
That's
I mean,
lovely.
I could go on about many things, like my friend who sells some really cool crunchy stuff.
One of the things I would say, Audrey, is that you're always, even during Shiva, you're looking to smile. You're looking for the good. You're looking for the stories.
I've always done that. You know, as a single parent, my coping mechanism was always looking at what we have rather than what we don't have. Mm. And there's a lot of gratitude in that.
Mm. Do you think that was something you learned, or something you just intrinsically is who you are?
It is who I am, but it's a family trait, I think. I mean, you know both my parents, Alyssa. You know how wonderful they both are. Mm-hmm. So I'm lucky. I'm grateful for them. I'm grateful for just being here. You know, I'm honored to be a part of this conversation. Beautiful.
So we have a little bit of time. Melissa is unable to come tonight. So if people would like to share their thoughts, or I have questions for the panelists, or just a question to pose to the group. We're a small, intimate group, so feel free to unmute yourself and share a little bit. And please, let's not be on any formalities here. Roberta, please.
a few years ago, I walked into a Chabad rabbi's office, and he had a sign on the wall that said, if you only got today what you thanked Hashem for yesterday, what would you have? And it shook me up, because just like you were talking before about a bone in your foot or a pain in your back, any of these things, we just go on with our lives. And there are so many things to be grateful for, like Yaliza said, about our bodies functioning correctly. And there are so many parts of our bodies, so many things in our environment that we thank God and we're grateful for it, but there's so many things more that we don't even consider every day. And maybe it's not possible to consider them all.
Could you say that phrase again?
If you only had today what you thanked Hashem for yesterday, what would you have? I think it's a sign we should all have hanging up.
Actually, I'm going to call on Margaret. I hope you know my Margaret, because Margaret wrote a little gratitude pamphlet, journaling thing that went to the Gemma, was it the Gemma Golub? Could you
Gloria
help
Gemma
me with that,
Foundation.
please?
Yeah.
And maybe you could speak a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What you learned from it, or what you wanted it to be, or like, because it was all about
Yeah.
thanks, and it's for people with journeying through cancer, right?
Yes and no, because in the book, it was photos and quotes and areas to journal, all on the theme of gratitude. And it emerged sort of accidentally in a conversation I had with some of the leaders there, who wanted to have something to give people during Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October. And I did it last year in October. So I started looking into what gratitude does for us physically as well as emotionally. I mean, it's even good for your health. It's in a way, it's a coping style. And one of the things I appreciate about what all of the women said today is they were able to identify things that weren't just happy accidents like winning the lottery. They are looking at appreciating what's there when it's beautiful and wonderful, and also when it's looking at what you have rather than what you don't. I think it's a perspective. And what I learned in creating that book is that gratitude is a practice, and that you can bring your attention to it more often, and you can develop that skill, which benefits you as well as the way you interact with other people. So.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what Ruchama was talking about on some level, maybe, of so much of our prayer involves thanking God for our lives, for the miracles all around us, for every, when we come out of the bathroom, as Eliza was saying, we have a prayer that we're giving thanks on some level and recognizing that we were able to go to the bathroom. And so it's sort of built into the day for us to have a recognition of that good that's being done for us.
Yeah.
Not take things for granted.
Right. And so in my work, similar to what Eliza was saying, I see people who are facing challenges, and I've been there only through their eyes. And it's so important, when you face something so difficult like possible mortality, or that comes to mind with cancer, you appreciate things around you in a new way. And I feel that I've gained the benefit of appreciating things around me and being attentive to that, not having personally had that crisis, but to appreciate what I experienced through other people. And it's a gift to me. So.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I think, getting to, having the opportunities that I've had really has kind of heightened this in my life. But I agree. I think it's a gift too.
Mhm.
And it's a work, isn't it? It's a work to work on.
Mhm. Yeah,
'Cause you
that's
can
what I
always
mean by
see-
a practice. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's true.
it's like Audrey, I think you're saying, like, see the glass half full sort of perspective on life. You have to unmute yourself, sorry. Audrey, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, wrong button. It's true. I mean, but it's always been my mantra. Like, let's look at what we do have, because we have so much.
Mm.
So I think for some people it is easier to do it, and some people really do, if they want to develop that. It's really hard work actually.
Yeah.
Some of the work I do with individuals is to start to develop that. And actually, it's I know for
For confidence too, right?
I think it actually is, I think, very connected to self-esteem. I mean, I haven't read research. I actually should look into research on that, but I think they are strongly connected.
But Margaret, when I was going through my radiation journey, I saw you. You connected me with a fitness program at the Y. And, suddenly I wasn't alone in my little space. So that gratitude keeps going. It helped me on my healing journey, which I'm very grateful for.
I am too. Thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that when you really practice gratitude, you become more aware of is that tangible, concrete things are less important than relationship. And
Hmm.
that's what really matters. You think about what is really important in your life when you're facing a crisis like this, and to know that it's really the people. It's really the interaction and the bonds that we have with each other.
Hmm. Go for it, Betsy.
Also, this is so beautiful.
You have to speak up a little bit. Somehow your computer's always quiet.
I know. Well, so that's odd for me, isn't it? Okay, so I think it also has to do with a framework of how we're going to look at things, and we're set up to look at what we'd like to have, what we'd like to do, what we'd hope for, very positive things. When we were just talking about loss, so it also can be. I find that I frame it in terms of loss, or finding meaning in loss, because it's also not loss, it's what is still there. So like when my mother was wasting away with Alzheimer's, I had some gratitude that there were parts of her that I liked better than anything I'd ever known about her. Because she had some gentleness about plants that she never had, or had time to look at some very tiny small thing. So there was like some really amazing thing that can happen because we begin looking at what is there, which is kind of what a lot of people have been saying in terms of really being able to focus on what we can be grateful for and experience. So it's a different framework than how we're used to responding or even judging things.
Don't be shy to contribute.
Alyssa, how about you?
Well, I resonate with all of it. I gave it all to you to say all the words for me. No, I think that that there's something very powerful about including it all every day and working on it. I don't think it comes as naturally to me. I think I grew up in a family that complained a lot about things. People complained about other people. My family members complained about other people. They complained about things not going their way. And so I grew up a little bit with that as my MO. Like I would see things that wrong. So I have to work on that. I have to work on seeing the good. I have to work on being grateful. And I really am. And I think as I get older, it gets easier, right? So as it gets older, you've experienced more and you see more in the world, and you kind of feel more, perhaps, that it's not in your control. So many things are not in our control. And yet we can also look around and see how beautiful, like you said, you walk down the boulevard and you see how beautiful the trees are. And you eat an orange and you see how like intricate an orange is, or you're able, you have a bad back, but then next week you don't have a bad back. And it's like, oh my gosh, now I can bend better than I did last week. I don't know. I'm understanding, as our culture is teaching us more and more and more, as our religion is teaching us, to really focus on the good. And so I feel like it's an ongoing practice. And I loved Margaret's little book. And I think that our next project would be to write a Jewish one, right? With more Jewish quotes and more, Jewishly oriented pictures, because Margaret's was very good for everybody. But I think that there could be a perspective or a little Jewish journaling thing that was about gratitude that isn't out there yet.
Yeah. And I found the book I want to let you take a look at, which a patient gathered and gave to me. And it was prayers and thoughts about healing.
Mm-hmm.
And those are things related to gratitude as well. So
yeah,
that's a project.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Anybody else who hasn't spoken yet want to ask a question or reflect back or say something? Just say hello. Yes, Bonnie, you have to unmute yourself though, please.
So there were a few things that were going through my mind as you ladies were talking. I got slightly involved, not minimally involved, in genealogy. And I've thought a lot about my grandfathers, both grandfathers, one on my mother's side and one on my father's side, whom I didn't know all that well, but they came from Hungary and from Poland, and they came to the United States mostly because of pogroms, but they came by themselves. They were like small children. I don't exactly know how old they were, but they were 10 or 12 years old. And they were put on a boat and sent. Both of them at one point came with their moms. Their moms went in another direction and they went someplace else. And I've just recently realized how little they were when they came to this country, and they had to fend for themselves and find work and try to get some kind of some kind of education. And when you think of the journey that they took and the families that they created in this country, with a strong emphasis on Judaism, they did it. I'm so grateful for the lives that they gave me. It's really amazing. I mean, I could come up with my own fantasy maybe about how they even managed it. I don't know how that happened. And the other thing that happened fairly recently, about 10 years ago, my husband passed away, and I'm still finding little notes and memos and words of advice around the house, which is really interesting that he left. I had something really funny happen, and I'm just so grateful for it. It was like an aha moment, and I felt that I was being hugged by him because of and it's silly. It's not anything monumental, but it was very powerful for me. I had a bathroom rug in my bathroom, and the the carpet had been, I hadn't changed it, and I picked it up to wash it, throw it in the washing machine, and it fell apart. And I'm standing there with this totally disintegrated carpet, and I'm thinking, my husband had a habit of not buying one thing. I have a whole wall of light bulbs that he bought in the garage that are still there 10 years later. He must have thought that we weren't going to have any light bulbs anymore, and he wanted to make sure that whatever. Anyhow, I found myself standing in the bathroom thinking, okay, where would he have put another carpet? And it didn't take me very long to find it. Lo and behold, I went into the second bathroom, and right up on the top shelf was a brand new carpet that had been there for more than 10 years. And I looked at it and I said, wow, that was another hug, and a hug of gratitude to this man who passed too soon. And he was a presence. And I miss him, and I'm grateful for the love and caring that he shared with me all these years.
You know, it's interesting, isn't it, that part of the mechanism of gratitude is not expecting things, is, you know, not feeling entitled, or or recognizing that it's a gift. So somewhere in the gift of not expecting it lies that gratitude, perhaps. And then how we teach it, I think everybody on this call is a mother, and how we teach that to our children, or how we teach it to our grandchildren, if their mothers aren't teaching it to, or their parents aren't teaching it to them, you know, how we inculcate, how we teach them. You know, Eliza, you talked about the influence of your mother, and you also spoke about the influence of your mother. Actually, you all spoke about the influence of your parents, but I wonder, you know, like we're parents, how do we show that to our children? So I don't know if anybody who hasn't spoken, or if you have already spoken, anybody want to you know, think about more kind of concrete ways in which we express it such that our children learn from it, or is that not the goal?
I think it is, because you want your child to be a reflection of you, at least your good traits, you know, so but I find with my daughter now, especially now that she's far away, like if I'm doing something with my mother, I want her to know, so that she can say, oh, you know, first of all, I don't have to worry about Nanny, but look what my mom's doing for her mom. And I hope that someday that will resonate, so that she'll do things with and for me when she's older. You know, because I feel like I'm, you know, every time I show her, like I took my mom to the theater last night, and I sent a text to my daughter with a picture, and I said, look, taking Nanny to see Les Miserables. And she was happy, you know, and she, you know, so my thought is that, you know, later down the line, maybe she'll live closer, and maybe she'll have that ability to pick me up and take me somewhere fun. And I can be grateful for those moments. You know, my mom's 85. She's in really good health, but she's 85. So, you know,
when I was growing up, my parents were very, very strict about, you had to always say please, and you always had to say thank you. And so when my children would visit England, so my father, every single thing they wanted, they had to ask please and thank you. And it was like a little bit too much. It's like, I think we don't do that as much in America. Like you have to say, every time you want a glass of water, you have to ask, please, can I have a glass of water? Thank you very much.
But there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, you know, I don't know. I'm just throwing it up for a general conversation.
I'm just saying, like, I appreciate when people say thank you.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. I do want my kids to learn gratitude for themselves. I think that they will be happier in their lives if they can appreciate what's around them and not expect. And I think expectation, you're right, was part of that, right?
Mhm.
If they expect it and it doesn't happen, or if expected and it does happen, it doesn't have that same experience as if they just, appreciate things as they come. Even if they get the same thing every day, right? Like to just appreciate that somebody's making them lunch every day, or somebody's making them dinner every day, and not to have
For
this.
sure.
And I think that it does enhance your life, and I hope that they will do that for themselves, but it is hard to teach it, and maybe because we don't make them say please and thank you as much as we should.
But I see now, that my daughter's 24 and not living here with me, the friends that she's made over the years, some of them have dropped her as friends because they don't have the background, the love, the gratitude, the family, the neshama, I guess, for lack of a better word, that she has and had growing up.
Mm.
And it's really impactful. I sacrificed a lot so that she could go to school debt-free and whatever else I've done for her. And, when she made friends with people, it was too much for them.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Well, Laurie, did you want to say something? You look like you unmuted.
Well, I was just going back to being grateful every day. I was thinking of, and it came to my mind a couple of weeks ago, I started thinking about it again, the book that we studied in honor of Tzidkia, Let There Be Rain, where every day there's something to be grateful for, and you should remember to look at even the little things, even rain to help the plants grow, or every little thing, even sometimes when it seems like something bad, is something to be grateful in whatever happens, either whether it be that somebody stepped up to help you if you fell, that's something to be grateful for, and that every day there's something to be grateful for. And I try to teach my kids that, my granddaughter that no matter how bad things seem, there's always at least one thing every day that you can be grateful for, and it changes your whole attitude about the day.
Yep. All right. Well, we're winding up the hour, and I'm grateful for all of you for coming and sharing and giving us food for thought. And it will be recorded, so I'm going to share it because people have asked for the recording. And I hope that we all learn that to be better at or to include gratitude in a way that makes us happier and makes us more aware of all the goodness that's being done for us by God, by each other, and us for ourselves. We can be grateful to ourselves also for taking care of ourselves. I guess it's also something that we have to do. And each one of you is very grateful that you came, and that we're part of something that's bigger than each one of us. And we have some more programs coming up, so please come to those and give us ideas about new programs that we could be doing. And the Great Big Rhode Island Challah Bake is in January, so there's always a big fun event with lots of women and singing and dancing and oneness and unity and making challah, and it's super fun and really uniting, bringing us all together as a Jewish people. So thank you all for coming.
Thank
And,
you, Alyssa.
Thank you.
Shalom
Thank
to
you again,
everybody.
Alyssa.
Thank
night.
you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you,
Bye,
Elizabeth.
everybody.
Really
Welcome.
wonderful.